everyone. I hope you all are doing well. I'm Ritika, your host for today's enlightening session, where we will dive deep into the transformative world of artificial intelligence. Before we start our session, I request all the participants to please mention their name and their location in the comment section. We're also going to have a Q&A at the end of the session, and I encourage active participation from all of you. In case you have missed watching our past session or you want to watch it again or you want to share it to your colleagues, you can visit our YouTube channel and watch the on-demand videos of our past session over there. I'll be sharing the link of our YouTube channel shortly in the comment section. So we started the series on 2020X Vision AI in the month of November. We have covered 3 sessions on that, and we have received positive responses. So we brought you another session on AI as well, which we'll be having today, and we'll be continuing the series for the next month. And the topic will be 2020X Vision, value multipliers that drive success. So after this session ends, I'll be sharing the link to the session which will be upcoming in the month of March in the comment section as well, so that all of you can register. So let's quickly start our session, and let me introduce you to Vishendra Verma, who is the founder and CEO of Growth Sutra and the host for today's session. Over to you, Vishendra.
Thank you, Ritika. Thank you so much. And I just want to mention that your next session is going to be on 14th of March, and is going to be an exciting series that we have been running. I welcome everyone to this groundbreaking session on responsible AI leadership, 2020X Vision, the AI change maker. AI is transforming industries before our eyes, but progress depends on proactive and inclusive leadership. And that's why we have brought together incredible minds from technology business who are responsible for strategy, revenue, and marketing to shine light on how we can collaborate to shape an AI landscape that benefits all. So they'll share hard-won insights into risk obscured from view along with tremendous opportunities. Let me introduce the speaker. We have Dennis, who is the founder and founder of Roman Samba and senior advisor at Growth Sutra. Atul, he's the SVP Strategic Growth and AI Solutions, Quintus Global. And then we have Peter, who is the SVP Marketing, Suntech Business Solution. So before I start, let me invite my panel speakers in case if they have anything to add or would like to introduce themselves.
Thank you, Vish. I'm very excited for today, and we've got, it looks like we might have a record number of people who have registered for this. So AI is really an attractive subject, and I think today should be a real wow.
Thank you.
Atul,
Thank you,
you have?
Atul Kulshresht, been in the industry for 35 years, took a break in between, started my own firm as an entrepreneur, and again got back into another entrepreneurial venture, which is Quintus Global, which is a services and solution company. And my role is to offer some, right solutions, AI solutions to its clients, and responsible for growth. But more when we get to the session. Thank you very much, Vish, for giving this opportunity to talk on this webinar.
Thank you, Atul.
Yeah, and thanks for inviting me. My name is Peter York, and I'm going to specifically talk about how we're using Gen AI in marketing. It's early days yet, but some great learnings which I'm happy to share with you and also participate in any discussion thereafter.
Thank you, Peter. So before we start, let me also talk about a program that we are launching soon. Is Export. It's a cohort to empower founders and growth leaders, and there are going to be 3 areas that will constitute this program: is the revenue growth scale, emerging tech, where we are going to talk about the leading Gen AI integration or CRM integration, marketing automation integration as part of Exponent. And then there's going to be tailored guidance, which is going to be in a more structured way. Ascent. We are going to be having a lot of expert on demand who would be joining from across the globe, and they will be sharing their insights as part of this session going forward. This is the content flow. So I'll quickly set the context. I'm your host, Vishwendra. And then we are going to have Dennis, who is going to talk about the AI Changemaker Imperative. We'll continue our conversation regarding AI leadership, rising to the challenge with Atul, who is also going to talk about crafting AI leadership code. And then we'll discuss relevant industry use cases. And then we are going to have a Q&A spotlight, as Peter mentioned. So we'll talk about marketing with AI, trailblazing the future, where we are going to have more of a Q&A discussion with him in terms of use cases of AI in marketing for enhanced results and performance. So when we are looking at the adoption of generative AI, you would see that AI is advancing rapidly, but without any adequate guardrails. So a recent Salesforce study found over 50% of employees are now using AI like ChatGPT without formal training or employer approval. So this exponential adoption risks critical ethics and misinformation hazards. And simultaneously, if you look at on the other side of the spectrum, which is consumers, so consumers are a little concerned. A study which has been done by a Forbes advisor, and what they have shared that 76% of consumers are concerned about misinformation that has been shared through AI generated content, and 44% believe there's a significant gap in chatbots engagement versus human driven engagement. So there's a huge gap which has been there. If we look at the areas, the data reveals an alarming AI leadership vacuum, especially in terms of ethics, data, and also the challenge of having this generative AI as more of user centric. So there has been a gap in leadership and governance, and that's what we will be talking about today. In terms of rising leadership in AI domain, and also in terms of the AI change maker imperative. To collaborate some of the data that I have shared in my previous slide, we also ran a survey, and we are open for receiving your responses on that survey. You could share your response in the comment box, either with A, B, C, and D. So the question is, what's the biggest leadership hurdle to tackle with the rise of Gen AI adoption? So we ran that survey on different platforms, and we got inputs from respondents. But you could share your response in the comment box. You can pick A, which is mitigate bias and inaccuracies. B, balance automation and job loss. C, maintain data privacy and security. And D, deliver trustworthy, ethical customer experience. So while you while you share your comment in terms of the key hurdle which you think is the biggest leadership bottleneck at the moment for generative AI adoption, let me run the response that we have got so far. All right, so that's what you see is the first hurdle that respondents see is the mitigate bias and inaccuracies. Second is maintain data privacy and security. Third is balance automation and job loss. And last but not least is deliver trustworthy ethical. Anyway, we would be covering this topic again in our sessions moving forward. Let me invite Dennis to talk about the AI Changemaker Imperative and set the context more elaborately here. Dennis.
You bet. Thank you, Vish. I'm going to put on my New York speed because I really want to get to Atul and Peter as well. So let me go through these things pretty quickly. Okay, so the Changemaker. My whole go-to-market is about sales enablement and marketing messaging by using financial analysis to get there. And that has changed dramatically with the advent of and the opportunity to use AI. My focus is the same, but I have this monster tool at my, and I refer to it kind of as the cloud. AI kind of dwarfs our earlier chestnuts of the cloud and blockchain and IoT, because with AI, we can't even figure out where the outside boundaries are. Finding where AI does not apply is much more difficult than the reverse. It's very difficult to find out how we won't be able to use AI in the future. It's the greatest change that I've ever seen in my career in terms of technology. And I submit that there needs to be an AI change maker for the enterprise, for the organization, regardless of the size of the firm, from startup right up through our mega companies, and someone near the top to drive for maximum impact, which is where a lot of the attention is going. Maximum impact includes, being able to do a heck of a lot more with less people involved, or doing higher quality in order to achieve more productivity, etc., but also doing it with minimal risk. Both of those, they're two heads of the same coin. If you put out a piece of content faster and of higher quality, that's the good news. But if you're putting it out faster and of higher quality and it's an error, that's the bad news. So both of those aspects, and I believe there ought to be one person in the organization who's got the overall responsibility, and then the organization would have individuals within each unit who's got a line into that senior person. And I've highlighted sales and marketing and research and development because I think that's the most important ones for my business and for a lot of us on the phone call today. But it's true across the organization. Even the executive management team needs to be facile, not just knowledgeable, like they were knowledgeable about blockchain. They need to be facile in the use of being able to use AI with their own fingertips, right? Sitting at a computer keyboard and typing away. Okay. Now, AI research becomes the most valuable when it becomes actionable. And by that, what I mean is in research, which is my métier, which countries, which sectors, which industries, which companies, et cetera. So there's 190 plus countries in the world. There's approximately 11 sectors in the stock market. There's approximately 69 industries with 158 sub-industries within those sectors. In the US, there's like 6,000 publicly traded companies that matter. And then which line of business, that's like going into infinity, and which job titles. So there's where I start using my research in order to make sales teams a heck of a lot more productive. And I'm coming right up to the end of my story here. 1850. So the wheel was invented like 3,000 years before the Common Era, right? So a guy invented a wheel. Many years later, they invented a horse and buggy. And I don't know when the horse and buggy, so I just picked 1850 as an example. This picture is probably about that time when we had photography starting in the 1800s. So here's a horse and buggy. And it wasn't until 1908 that the first gas-driven cars appeared and we got rid of the horse. So a lot of time passed. 1908. It's the next point that I wanted to make. It wasn't until 1911 that somebody thought about putting a white line down the road. So imagine everybody had a gas-powered car, but there's no line in the road. There's no line in the road. People are driving any old way they want. There's no rules. Now, I admit the 1911 white line in the road was actually done by a guy in England, so God bless him for that. But what he didn't do well enough is issue the memo saying which side of the road you should drive on. He didn't do that. He put the white line in the road, but he didn't tell. So to this day, we still have all of the British Empire driving on the wrong side of the road because he didn't put out the right memo. So even though there might have been somebody putting out white lines, they weren't actually telling people which side to drive on, which you would think would be self-evident unless you went to England or Japan or Australia. Okay. And how I liken that is this. NLP back in 2017 or even earlier, ChatGPT in 2022. Now we're in February 24 saying, well, who's going to come up with the white lines? The change maker. The change maker needs to come up with the white lines. That's all for me at the moment. I'll come back in a little bit later, Vish. I hope you enjoyed that metaphor about the horse and buggy, the gas engine car, and the white line.
Well, thank you, Dennis. I think that metaphor was really, interesting, and I believe that's something which, as an AI change maker, they should be looking at going back to the history and looking at how the framework can be rolled out, especially in a scenario which is crowded. So now let me invite Atul, who is going to talk about rise to the AI leadership. Atul, over to you.
Thank you, Vish, and thank you, Dennis, for setting that context very well. So the AI change maker. Okay, so let me first start with a little bit of a brief on Quintus Global, since I work there, so they do deserve a mention, right? So Quintus Global, we help our clients on three things, right? Number one is on optimizing business performance, right? We also have framework for tech integrated enterprise functions, right? So we help them on tech integration across enterprise functions, whether it is finance, HR, supply chain, etc. And then the third thing which we do is we deliver business intelligence for exponential growth, right? So those are the three main things as part of the service and solutions which we offer to our client, and we have successfully done some very marquee shared services setups, global capability centers we have set up for global clients. So that's really what Quintus Global does. And if anyone wants to reach out to me, you can reach out on quintusglobal.com, drop us a note there, or drop me a direct message on LinkedIn, right? So with that, let's move to. So what I'm going to be doing in next 9 odd slides are answer 3 questions, right? Number one, which are the business areas where AI can be applied, right? Second question, which I'll try and answer is, what are the typical challenges in the AI journey when it comes to businesses, okay? Third question, which I'll attempt to answer is what are the key competencies for an AI leader, right? What is it that the AI change maker needs to have, right? Now, I thought this slide was very relevant because while we are very much aware about all the buzz around AI and Gen AI since the ChatGPT became visible to everyone, right? And they grew so fast. I think 100 million, 10 million users, they did it in record number of, I think 1 million users happened in like few days, right? So, but the reality is, right, today, and the beauty of this slide is that it shows whether it's e-commerce or autonomous vehicles or smart homes, security surveillance, right? Today, camera systems can identify between a human being and a cat or a dog, right? And if there is a thief which is trying to get into your home, it'll actually start triggering the alarms and whatever, right? But if it's a cat, maybe it will not, right? So that's AI behind it, right? Similarly, we go to Amazon, we start browsing something, and all of a sudden, you see those recommendations start coming in, right? That's AI, right? I mean, the best example of AI, which we probably don't even think about it, right, is Google Maps, right? So it's showing you where exactly is the congestion, what should be your alternate route, right? On, pretty much in micro milliseconds, it is able to do that computation. How is that happening, right? It's not that some human beings are sitting in Bangalore or in Guatemala trying to process. It's all happening on the systems, on the data centers, right? With the some of the best chips in the world, right? So that's really, so the point I'm making is that today AI is already embedded across our lives, right? And I think every business in some way or the other probably is already using that, right? Now, coming back to future, right? What are the areas where AI, and again, artificial intelligence is a broader terminology, and generative AI, and then AGI, which is, people are saying that probably will take a couple of decades to come, where AI will kind of replace human intelligence. God forbid that may not happen or should not happen, but it is going to happen at some point in time. I think everyone is tuned to that, right? So, which are the areas where which are fit areas fit for AI, right? I think so. For sure, if I bucket it into, we always, at least in my experience, we used to talk about front office interactions and back office work, right? So customer experience, customer service. Now, customer service could be in a store or in person. It could be on phone. It could be on chat, right? And then there are areas in the back where you can apply artificial intelligence, right? Now I'm going to talk about generative AI, right? It's not about AI, because AI is already, in some way or the other, you are using it, right? When it comes to generative AI, how is customer experience going to change, right? Very simple. In fact, I was on one of the seminars recently, and the speaker was talking about the customer care center for insurance processes, right? And they are using generative AI for agent assist, right? So it could be someone trying to get a policy, right? And the moment that they dial in, you get the details of the person. So behind the scenes, generative AI is kind of looking through what are the preferences for the client, what kind of policies they have bought, where do they live, etc., etc. That's an agent assist, right? Similarly, it could be in customer service, right? Operational efficiency is the other big area where companies are starting to experiment with generative AI, right? Now, you will ask why, right? First of all, when it comes to Gen AI solutions, right, you need to have very good data, you need to have large language models, you need to have some kind of a transformer running on it. So there is a huge amount of cost, right? And that's where some of the companies are starting with operations, because they believe that if they start in operations area, they can quickly get some savings out of it, and which will aid their funding of the project, right? So that's another thing which is coming up very, very fast, right? So customer service, customer experience, call it whatever, and then the operation side of it, I think are the two big areas, right? In fact, one study which was done by I believe it was BCG and Gartner said that 50% of today's applications use cases are happening in this front office domain, in the customer service, customer experience domain. 36% is on operational efficiency and 14% is balance, right? Very interesting. And on the right, you see, and it's a little bit of a eyesore, but I couldn't do much about it, but it's a McKinsey study, right, from last year, 23, which talks about that which are the areas where Gen AI is being used the most, right? And you can clearly see marketing and sales, product service development, strategy, corporate HR, supply chain, manufacturing, right? So that's really the those are the areas, right, where really there is a potential to use Gen AI. Next comes, what are the challenges which you see in AI projects, right? And this is a HBR, Harvard Business Review report, which said that 80% of AI projects fail, right? Now that's also very interesting statistics, right? And why would a AI project fail, right? And I won't go through all the list, but data quality is one big one, right? Having the right leadership driving that change is the second biggest one, right? So on and so forth, right? I think in my view, I think leadership is the key here, right? And the reason I say that is if you have a leader who's kind of centrally managing all the AI ecosystem for the enterprise, is able to identify which are the use cases. And I personally believe, right, because the technology is changing so fast, right? New tools, new platforms, new solutions are coming in. I mean, ChatGPT itself from the launch till now, I think has really some 7 or 8 different versions, right? Yesterday I saw that now they have got something on the memory or something, So it's changing so fast, right? So you have to be very agile, right? You have to be very agile. You have to be continuously experimenting with the new tools, with the new use cases, and most importantly, have an attitude of fast fail, right? At the same time, I would say, if it's very important for organizations to have the right AI strategy, right? Identify, talk to the business leaders, have a conversation at a CXO level, and identify which are the areas you're going to first go in, because you will have to keep going deeper and deeper into those areas, and then figure out, cherry pick, a few projects, spend some time, months on that or weeks on that, figure out which ones are moving fast, which ones are not, right? So that's really, and again, I think it also gets substantiated by what McKinsey has found out in their study, right? That what are the biggest challenges in capturing value from AI. I just want to, talk about one particular case study, right? Where, and this is a company which is partner of Quintus Global. Company's name is Kringle.ai. I will share more details, but they worked with a large ice cream retailer in ANZ, in Australia, New Zealand. And they were able to, through the personalization, through the digitization, and using the machine learning, they were able to get 3x revenue growth for some of the stores, right? I mean, ice cream parlors, all of us love it, right? I mean, it's not that. So from offline mode to going completely digital, 3 to 5x kind of returns they could get, right? But again, I think the key there was that the leadership believed in that use case and went for it, right? And then they selected this particular solution. They went out, implemented it, piloted it first, and then rolled it out across, I think, a couple of hundred stores, right? Now that comes to the third question, which is, what are the competencies of an AI leader, right? So, like I mentioned, right? First of all, very important is strategic thinking, right? Because, and this is where I think a lot of times when organizations just get, okay, you're the financial controller, why don't you go and do some project on this thing? Or you are an HR manager, you go and do an HR project with AI. Or you're a supply chain person, why don't you? It's not harmonized across the organization. Everyone is doing their own investments, everyone is doing their own stuff. It won't give you results, right? So there has to be some bit of strategic thinking, identify areas where you think you can focus on and get quick results, right? I mentioned about entrepreneurship, very important, right? What is that one thing which entrepreneurs do? They are high risk takers, right? And that's where I mentioned earlier, fast fail, right? Very important to have emotional intelligence, because it's not like that project has failed, so you go ahead and fire that person, right? You need to understand that It's not that person's mistake. It's the fact that somewhere the technology use case is not fitting in, right? Or maybe there are other reasons. Maybe there could be like Vish talked about, there are security concerns, there are regulatory constraints. You can't use that solution, right? So you have to can that particular pilot, right? Engagement is absolutely critical here. We have seen in so many projects where if you don't do good change management, if you don't engage people, see, AI also causes scare amongst people. So you have to communicate. You have to make sure that people understand that this is for assisting them, right? It is possibility that they may get replaced, right? But if you engage a person, if you explain to them that this is the rationale, this is how the business is going to benefit, and you know what, if it comes to that your job is at risk, we will make sure we'll get you newer skills, and you can then retrain yourself, right? So engagement are absolutely critical, and then continuous learning and resilience. I think I don't have to spend too much time on that, but that's where I think that having a central role at a CXO level, or it could be even CXO -1, that doesn't matter, right? But someone senior enough, someone who's strategic enough, who can bring it all together, who can collaborate across different functional leaders, right? I believe businesses today need that role to make sure that they are really setting themselves up for success for the next 10 years, right? Or more. Now, these are some of the use cases. I actually did a blog last year, August, I believe, and then I did a series of those blogs on LinkedIn. Sorry. And again, I want to just focus on two, because I think Peter is going to talk about marketing, and reporting analytics is something which Dennis is really an expert on. But like I said, higher customer engagement, organization efficiency, productivity, in my view, are very, very ripe and low-hanging fruits when it comes to using AI in business, right? Moving on to the, I think, last or second last slide. These are different solutions which we typically end up using in business. Some of them you probably already know. Microsoft 365 Copilot. By the way, Copilots cost about $100 a month per person, right? And some of the companies have actually are mandating without realizing, right, that okay, if I have 1,000 people, all 1,000 will get it. But that means you're getting a 1.2 million bill at the end of the year from Microsoft, right? So even to use Copilot, you need to do some bit of research and analysis. And that's where some of the platforms like KYP and even Jiffy can come into the play. But that which are the people whom you want to get Copilot, right? Are those people really going to use Copilot? So again, there are a lot of things which one needs to think through, which is where the AI leadership. So I think I covered Ben and Jerry. Lakme is again a cosmetic chain, big. I think it's part of Unilever. They saw an increased revenue of 10x when they rolled out Kringle solution on loyalty and personalization and campaigns, etc. KYP is another solution, and 500,000 savings, 580K for a Lorica, because they could figure out that how their teams are getting utilized, right? Cunesco, another company where the productivity rose by 20. So there are platforms available, there are solutions available, and what you need are these are some of the things which I would recommend, right? This is my last slide. One, very clearly, you need someone, a champion within your organization. If it's at a CXO level, it'll be great. because then the person can really drive the strategy, right? Second thing is good data is critical. However, I must add that with generative AI, right? Even if you have unstructured data, it can help you. But again, it's not like, you have unstructured data, you apply a tool and, it becomes good data. You need a lot of analysis around that. You need to do checks and balances so that you are sure that the data is good, right? Third thing is there are no instant results. You'll have to try a number of different things. Some will work, some will not, right? Engagement of functional SMEs is very, very important, right? Now, I'll give you another example here. So, in a contact center where AI Assist was deployed, the lowest performer agents, within a span of weeks, went to the top performers level, right? Now, imagine a person who used to do, let's say, 50 calls went up to 100 calls. So there is a huge productivity benefit to the organization, right? Second thing, now, what are the unintended benefits of this, right? So typically earlier on, those low performers, if they're not able to work on the solution, they will get a team leader or their manager to come in and talk to those clients. That went away completely, right? So the manager and the team leader could actually do the coaching to those people, right? Which is really the job of manager. You have to coach and train people, right? You have to tell them about the business context, the larger big picture, etc., right? So all of a sudden you have a managerial capacity available, and earlier maybe the person was managing 20, 30 people. Now maybe they can manage 50 people because of the AI Assist. Right? Just a very simple example, right? Similarly, there could be benefits on process. There could be benefits on what kind of technology you're using, what kind of apps you're using, what kind of laptop you're using. Maybe your hardware is outdated. You're using an i5 processor with a 4 GB RAM versus Atul who's using 16 GB iMac, right? So that kind of visibility you get, right? Change management, I think I talked about it. And then I think the other important thing which working at Quintus Global, we really pride ourselves is that when we talk to the client, we don't offer them best in class or best in the world. We say we'll give you best context solution, right? Because what is best for a manufacturing organization may not be best for the service organization or an e-commerce company, and vice versa, right? And that's where I say that you have to find the right collaboration, you have to find the right partners who can help you in this journey. So with that, I finish. Thank you, Vish, for a patience.
Thank you, Atul. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. It was the session was very insightful. I have some questions, but I'm going to raise because we are short of time now. So I'm going to go quickly to Peter and then going to start a conversation with him, especially to understand how he is kind of deploying AI within the marketing ecosystem altogether, because he's kind of so it's marketing could be seen, as you said, in your initial slides. Marketing is an area, marketing, communication, and sales are the area where we are seeing a lot many users who are adopting generative AI solutions. So let me begin with Peter. Hi, Peter. So I think the first question that I have, what are some of the preconditions that marketing leaders need to be aware of before they use generative AI?
Yeah, so I'll just make a couple of opening comments. The first is that I've been a marketer and a communicator and a technical writer and all the rest of it now for the last 35 years. And I remember the first day when I walked into Tata Consultancy Services in Air India building in Nariman Point. The most expensive real estate even probably higher than Manhattan. And I was introduced to a pool of people sitting in a room, and we call that the typing pool. So they were actually sitting behind typewriters. I don't even think the current generation would have even seen a typewriter. But that was not so far back. If you really think about it, 35 years. And from there to now, there has been a rapid kind of evolution of technology. In fact, Sam Altman himself said that Gen AI has the potential to democratize access to creative tools and empower people to express themselves in new and exciting ways. And believe me, this is not a phenomenon of Gen AI. It's actually been a phenomenon of social media, which kind of got introduced to all of us, about 2 decades back. Democratization is the name of the game. Everybody can use it, participate in it. Um, but we have to remember that as the need for creativity increases, particularly with Gen AI tools, there are some limitations currently, but that will soon go away. Now, you asked about preconditions. I think there are a few that one needs to keep in mind. The first thing is that the process of how you go to market has to be very clear. It should be frozen solid, and then you can add the Gen AI elements to it at different points. You can add the tools at different points along this cycle. Now, what we did in our company at Suntech is we actually went through the process of identifying different tasks that we do and actually linking them to each of the functional areas that we have. We came up with 37 tasks in all, and we linked them to each of the functional areas: demand generation, thought leadership, internal communications, product marketing, and so on and so forth. And then we went about to understanding at what different points in fulfillment of these tasks could we bring in efficiency. So that is definitely a precondition. The other thing is you have to know what you want to get at the end of the process. Okay, so it's great. I can give all of you a recipe for making the best fish curry that you can ever taste. But at the end of the day, you must know what authentic fish curry from Mangalore tastes like. Okay, if you don't know that, then you kind of are going to be satisfied with whatever you get. You got to also map to your corporate style guide. You got to make sure that that kind of is in place, so that any kind of editorial or design considerations, your brand book, they're all in place before you can embark on this journey. The other thing is that you need to understand the tech stack that is at your disposal, and how you can kind of manage that tech stack to give you the combination that you need to get an optimum output. Because it could start with content, it could get into design, it could get into marketing automation, it will get into analytics after that. It's a whole cycle. So you got to understand that and make sure that you actually go through the steps meticulously to get what you want. And what are those various tools that you can use? There are hundreds of tools available in the market. You got to know what exactly fits the requirement the best. You got to do extensive testing of them, and then you can kind of embark on your Gen AI journey. So I hope I kind of touched on some of the things that you know are important.
Okay.
Vish,
Yeah, thanks, Peter. So, can you hear me? Actually, I think the network has slowed down.
I can. Yes.
Yeah. So the other question I have is, what are some common challenges marketers face when implementing AI? And since you talked about the entire journey, what you have gone through, I think there's a lot which marketers can learn from you in terms of how to address these common challenges, and how they can overcome these challenges moving forward.
Yeah. So I think the first thing is you've got to appreciate that in any marketing context, in any context for that matter, in corporate life, in industry, you are dealing with people, and therefore you've got to bring people on your side of the fence. There are people who come with different kind of personas and personalities. There are some who are willing to change. There are others who may have an aversion to embracing change. So you've got to bring everybody to your side. Otherwise, you could face a lot of internal resistance within the team itself to adopt and to use some of the tools that are available. So I think that's the first thing that you got to kind of overcome. The second thing is that there is no shortcut to understanding who your target audience is, who your customer is. We go through this elaborate process of persona creation. Now, while a chat GPT kind of tool can enable you to understand how to create a persona, but ultimately the validation of that in real life needs to be done by you, and you need to understand that, because if your audience is not in the bullseye, whatever output you produce or whatever campaigns you run in marketing will just fall, astray. It'll go astray and it'll just fall by the wayside. So that is very important. The other thing, and this is the biggest challenge that I see that all of us are facing, is basically there are newer and newer technologies and newer tools coming into the market. Now, how do you really keep up to date with all this? How do you understand what are the new functionalities available? And how do you basically, it's basically a moving goalpost. So you've got to kind of understand what is in vogue and what suits your organization the best. So I think that's most important. The other consideration is today in marketing, content basically forms the bedrock of most communication programs. Storytelling is important. Seth Godin had this famous thing which he said, where he said it's, marketing is not about making products, but it's about the stories you tell. And therefore, you need to have a very clear vision as the marketing head of the organization about what is that content, that you want to generate, what's the kind of phraseology, what's the kind of sentiment, what's the kind of emotion that you want to bring out, and you need to train the tool that you're using to enable that to happen. The other thing that you got to do is you got to understand that tools like ChatGPT and Copilot and all these are not basically search tools. They are tools which make your life more efficient. They are tools which can basically assist you, and therefore you may have to go through multiple parsers and iterations before you get the right output that you want. I was trying to create a white paper as an example, and I had to kind of query the tool almost about 15 times to get that correct output that I wanted before I could actually be satisfied and release it for publication. So you've got to go through that iterative process. It's like talking to a colleague and saying, "No, I don't think this is as good as I like. I'm seeing this is missing. Can you improve of this? Can you do something?" So it has to be an iterative process. The other very important thing is today we have got to appreciate the ethical issues that can crop up. So issues about sourcing of content, attribution of content, images, attribution of those images, use of the images, GDPR regulations, all these become very, very important for us to understand, because ultimately the liability of publishing something is not with the tool, it is with you as a marketer. You got to remember that. And finally, I think what is very, very important is you've got to understand how you build your prompts. So you can have a prompt library that you develop and you can keep refining that library. But again, one hat doesn't fit all heads. You got to keep refining that and iterating with it to get the kind of correct output that you need to.
Right. Yeah. So what what could be the exciting future possibilities that you foresee for AI's role in marketing and customer engagement?
So I think at a very broad level, Vish, one thing that Gen AI certainly gives you is speed. It certainly gives you accuracy. It does away with all the mundane tasks. But I think there is also a case for creating the position of a chief content officer. Okay, and I wrote a blog about this couple of weeks back on LinkedIn. This is a role that kind of sits and provides services to marketing, to communications, to sales, to pre-sales, to all these functions, because all of them rely heavily on content, on campaigns, and all that. And this person's role is really at the intersection of content generation, of data analytics, and of technology. And that is where all the tools, the Gen AI tools and other things come about. Now, I'll give you a couple of, I know we are running short of time, but I'll give you a couple of cases which are interesting on what we have done to use some of this in our actual work and production that we do. Now, we are a software product company. We have a product management team. We have people who actually are writing technical documentation, and we use the tool called Confluence, which is from Atlassian, so that all this data goes in there, it's tagged over there, and it is available there. Now, what we have experimented in doing is putting the right prompts, pulling information from there, and converting it into market-facing collateral. So we have an automated process for converting that into market-facing collateral, where you have templates that exist. You basically have your standards, you have your specifications that are there, and you can actually then go on and use tools like Designer, to create ebooks out of that. You can use Canva. Today, Canva comes with an AI potential where you can do things from there. And basically, the process of creating this content becomes seamless, it becomes quick, and it gets very authentic as you go along. So that's one use case where we've actually put it into practice. The other thing is we have a whole community within the company that we need to keep engaged. They are geographically diverse. We use a platform called Sociable. Sociable is a French company, and our intranet sits on that. We are now exploring the possibility of actually using Sociable AI, which is available for us to draft communication or draft posts that can actually go into the platform. Again, you predetermine the style, you predetermine what you want out of it, the design, and so on, and the thing can seamlessly kind of update and upload there. Currently, we use ChatGPT for this, and we're finding it, now that we've fed in who we are and it's gone through a learning process for us, we've kind of we get output that is quick. The turnaround time sometimes for writing an email that can be published organization wide can be as low as 10 minutes, and it becomes a very easy process to do. But one thing you've got to watch out for is there's a tendency to use repetitive phrases again and again, and that sometimes is it requires an editing which needs to be done manually, and that's what you need to do. The final thing is that we use uh, it very effectively for abstracting long reads, long transcripts that we have. We use Teams, Microsoft Teams, to basically do our internal meetings. We take a transcript from that, and you can actually take 30-40 pages, put it into ChatGPT, ask specific questions around that, and it gives you specific answers. It can generate a brief from that, so it becomes very easy to kind of translate things after a meeting, rather than going through these entire laborious manuscripts to kind of make sense of what has happened. It can generate minutes of the meeting and so on and so forth. So these are some of the use cases. There are many more that we use, but I think in the interest of time, I'll kind of stop here.
No, thank you, Peter. Thank you so much. I think you are using, these tools in a very, structured manner. And I believe now we have so much of content which is available with the right messaging, the right tone which is needed, especially with the help of generative AI, that can be actually distributed to different channels. There was a time when we used to lack that kind of, the diverse content which can be leveraged. But now, within few clicks and quick, turnaround time, we can get the same content with different, short, short term. I would say the content for social media or long form content, white papers or ebooks. You talked about you have been generating ebooks from a generative AI tool. So yeah, I think there's the possibility is very immense.
Yeah, the other thing also, Vish, that very often you've created artifacts like white papers and other things which are in a repository. If you want to kind of repurpose them, reuse them, you want to bring them back to life after a period of time, there's a possibility of kind of getting it rewritten very, very effectively on any of these Gen AI tools. Otherwise, what happens is it tends to go to waste, and all the effort that you may have spent 2 years back, you just start writing from scratch all over again. So there are multiple kind of use cases that can be created if you just understand the process, understand what you want to do with the content, and most importantly, understand your customer.
Right, I agree. So now we are at the top of our hour. If there are any questions from the audience, we can take those questions. At the moment, I'm not seeing any questions which have been shared by the audience. I think we had an interesting conversation. I believe the audience would have captured whatever we have shared, and in terms of the frameworks, the the code for AI leadership that Atul shared, talked about, and Peter, what we talked about in terms of the structured approach for rolling out AI, especially in marketing function. That could be good. Dennis, do you have? I know we have a couple of slides you want to talk about how you have been using AI in sales funnel. You want to quickly touch upon that, and then we will conclude the session.
Okay, Vish, sure. This has been great. I think our audience probably enjoyed this a great deal. Okay, so I just wanted to touch on the end of this. So I showed this earlier, and how it's changed my world. So historically, the classic funnel is built on the philosophy of getting a lot of records in the top, and you eventually end up with a much smaller number of records at the bottom. And this is kind of a classic approach to the marketplace. But when I started to then add AI to my mix, I have found that it's been more productive to take it this way. So the 50 records that are over here at the bottom, I'm not saying they're the exact same 50 records that are over here at the top, but by hyper qualifying the opportunities before you actually start the outreach campaigns, and weed out the people weed out the enterprises, the companies that are probably not going to lead anywhere, you get a much more productive funnel. The funnel actually gets narrower at the top because you're not putting in nearly as many records because so many have been weeded out based on the financial analysis of those companies and the likelihood that they're going to find whatever we have of interest to be of interest. And I purposely make the funnel fat at the bottom for these reasons. If you put in much fewer records at the top, assuming that they're hyper qualified, is what I'm recommending through using my research capabilities and using AI, you actually get from the top of the funnel to the bottom of the funnel much quicker because you're having much higher quality contact with the individual institutions. You're also getting to the bottom more successfully because the other vendors are being distracted by the big numbers at the top where you're working a very much smaller go-to-market list. And I submit the bottom of the funnel is even bigger, not just because of speed, and not just because of a higher success rate, but you're probably going to find more opportunities by the time you get to the bottom. So not only might be the one deal you were working on might be bigger than it would have been otherwise, but more importantly, you're going to find more deals inside the same company because you're using a much different approach to figure out who to start chasing. So I think literally it makes sense to picture mentally the funnel upside down with a narrow top, which actually gets fat at the bottom for the reasons I was just specifying. That's it from my side. Vish, back to you.
Thank you, Dennis. So we have received a good feedback from Shipra. Nice walkthrough of how generative AI is extensively involved in our life now. Great insights shared by the speakers. Thank you so much, Shipra, for your comment. There's a question which has been shared by Nandan Bhojraj. Is how this can be used in strategy consultancy. So I'm sure this question pertains to the adoption of generative AI, especially on from the perspective of a use case in the strategy consultancy. And there's a lot of news around how consultancy has been impacted by by the adoption of generative AI. So any one of you would like to comment on this question which has been shared by Nandan?
I can try and give a roundabout answer. So if you remember, in 1996, Kasparov, the master of chess, was beaten by DeepMind, right? So for the first time in human history, and artificial intelligence beat up a human at the game of chess, right? And chess is all about strategy and all about your moves. Um, so I think, my take on this question is that if you have the right leadership, right? If you're willing to take some bold moves, if you take calculated moves, right, you should be able to find some good wins, right? And not just good wins, you can do much more on your customer experience. And Peter talked about, what are the different ways and means through which you can use GenAI for marketing, right? Similarly, you can use it in your operations and drive off efficiency, find the money to the budgets, etc., right? So there are and then Dennis talked about, from the financial research perspective, right? So I don't think there is a magic answer to this, right? But certainly you have to do your chessboard moves. You have to figure out in terms of what is going to be. So you have to experiment, you have to pilot, you have to try different things. And because again, like I said, the technology is changing so fast, right? You start using something today, this week, chances are by next week a better product will come in the market, right?
Yeah.
I was talking to a chatbot company, and now there is a platform which can get you a chatbot in, I think they say 3 minutes. You can actually get your chatbot up and running, right? So think of the business model there. So that's I don't know if anyone else wants to add.
No, I think with the paucity of the time, will move forward, and I just want to quickly share a last slide, because we talked about the challenges, the risk, but the what we discussed and what you have gathered is the rewards are higher. So in fact, we talked about customer experience, and there's a study that says that AI can increase self-service channel use by 2 or 3x. Atul talked about this. Well, sales closing 27% more deals using AI insights. That's from People AI. And marketing has got their magic wand, which has been missing over the years. So marketing now converting 3x more with personalized AI targeting. That's shared by Forbes. So of course, there's a huge potential. There's a 3x ROI potential with a strong AI leadership as make the AI part of your organization ecosystem. And I'm sure today's session would have actually given you a lot of insights in terms of the visionary inputs that our leaders have shared. My biggest takeaway certainly is the renewed confidence that the future of AI shines brightly when diverse, ethical, and strategic leaders come together to guide progress holistically. And I'm grateful to all the speakers who joined today and share their insights, share their expertise. So thank you so much for your insights, Atul, Peter, Dennis. We are going to have another session next in the month of March, which is going to be on the value multipliers that drive success, and that's where we would be talking about the key multipliers that are actually driving success for various businesses. So thank you so much for joining our session today, and we look forward to catching up with you in the month of March.
Thank you, Vish, and thank you to all the participants and
Yeah.
the panel speakers.
Thank you.
Thanks. It was a pleasure. Yeah.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.